So my name is Laisha Farmer, and I am 30 years old. I would define myself as an experimental and multimedia artist. I like to work mostly with textiles, but I also work with paint and moving image as well as performance. My textile work, I like to do garments, garment design, set design, weaving, felting, quilting, and right now I'm doing a lot of experimental work with bioplastics, um, which is using mostly simple ingredients like seaweed powder or gelatin and water, simmering it and letting it dry. Um, and I've been playing around with creating textural shapes and textile samples from bioplastic. I also love to work with charged material or material that I feel like has its own historical lineages that intertwine with the historical lineages of folks from the African diaspora. So I love to work with cotton, silk, indigo, raffia, wool, and other like natural dyes and materials, as well as secondhand fabric and upcycled fabric. A large part of my practice involves exploring and paying homage to ancestral technology, such as weaving and quilting, and bringing forth those methods as valid and advanced technologies that we have been participating in and exploring for a long time. And it's something that I don't always know why I'm drawn to them or how I'm drawn to them, but it's something that I can like feel and that lives in me. And so I like to explore the traditional methods that have been passed down, as well as I also like to push the boundaries of form and explore materials in ways that I haven't witnessed them being in this world before. I like to play with the charged meaning of different materials like cotton and indigo, both plants that have a history connected to enslaved Africans and plantation and chattel slavery. And also, I like to, like I said, with exploring the different histories of different plants and materials, as well as Black folks, just explore like the connotation and the complexity and the implications of these plants that they were also victims in this violent history as well as us. Their history didn't start there, and neither did ours, and we had relationships with them in terms of technology and symbiotic relationships for a long time, and then experiencing these traumatic events together, and then also having generations present and future continue on with these plants and people, how our relationships shift, how they continue to be symbiotic, what we can learn from them, and what it means to be in conversation with these materials. So that's what I like to bring into my art practice. I feel like I've often had a hard time articulating when and how I became an artist. As a younger person, I had this like outside understanding of what I thought an artist had to be, and often that was someone that was institutionally recognized and also validated by Western formalities like the written word, articles, books, press. And so as a younger artist, I feel like I never referred to myself as an artist. A lot of that has shifted as I have learned more about the relationship between art and institutions, and the relationship between history and knowledge and power through different forms, and how a lot of the forms that are a part of my culture don't get validated. As I'm growing as an artist, I realized I've always been an artist. I learned art from my dad when I was a child. He was a painter, and he took me and my twin to different workshops and also taught me and my cousins different art lessons. I've always been also a self-taught artist. As a child, I used to make little weavings out of like dead grass and explore different materials. And so for me, I don't feel like there's a point or time when you arrive as an artist. It is just who you are if you're called to do that. And for me, my art practice involves a lot of just intuition and listening to those calls and responding. Like, I wanted to be a fashion designer, a garment designer since I was 5 years old. I've always been obsessed with textiles and sewing, and I didn't start venturing down that road or learning that until I was much older, like late teens, early 20s. And then I didn't learn, being a 5-year-old, probably like 20 years later when I was like 25 or so, I learned that both of my grandmothers were seamstresses, and I had no idea that was part of my history. And so a lot of my practice is just responding to things that I may not completely understand or be able to express in English, but I also don't feel like that's the point of my artwork. And I don't have any issues with people who feel like they need to be able to spell out everything in words and text and be able to explain their artwork in every single detail and every single meaning. But for me, I know that there's so many things that are calling me from each generation. And in my lifetime, my past, present, future, I'm responding to those things. But there's some things that may not find me in this generation, and that is also hard. And a theme that I like to explore a lot is navigating this loss of not necessarily just knowledge and history, but also like being confident in like who you are, because you have access to everything that is a part of you and that you're a part of, but that has been fragmented so many times over and over and over again. But for me, these fragments it's like they're magnets. They're drawn to each other, and I'm a part of it. So they're finding me, and I'm in my art practice is being in relationship with these fragments of knowing. And I also, some of my practice is also just honoring this deep, tangible grief of the fact that I may not know or be able to articulate every single thing that is trying to find me or the future generations.